Hi, I'm Anthony Newbold. Welcome to A Closer Look. My guest this week is the Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson. Minister, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Last time I saw you, you've had an incredible adventure since that last time you sat there. Well, what was it like? Because you coordinated the Dorian response in Grand Bahama. What was that like, trying to coordinate, thinking about all that stuff and thinking about your family at the same time?
Well, thank you, Ace. It's good to be here. A lot has changed since the last time that we were here.
Yeah.
We, and everyone knows, we were hit by the worst hurricane in the country's history.
Yeah,
Abaco and Grand Bahama. There are a couple of feelings that, when we think back as to what has taken place. One is very humbled to see the amount of devastation and to see the force of nature.
Yeah.
Really is a humbling experience. But on the other side, you're very grateful. Grateful, obviously, to God for getting us through such a traumatic experience, but also grateful to the people who really were the heroes and those who took us through, the police and defense force and all of the civil servants and the ordinary citizens who helped out. So grateful is also an experience, and proud to see them perform and how well they did, but also sad, because obviously this has been a storm that has taken a tremendous amount of life, and so we are sad every time that we think about those families that have lost loved ones. But then there's also a sense of determination.
Yeah, because Grand Bahama's always needed a reboot, never fully recovering from Francis and Jean.
Yeah.
Where do you begin to rebuild from this?
The good thing is Grand Bahama and Grand Bahamians have a resilient spirit.
Yeah.
They know how to rebuild. They've done this before. And so immediately after the storm, we saw Grand Bahamians just go out, start to clean up. They started immediately to rebuild. They started to clean the streets. They started to assess the situation. They immediately responded. And Grand Bahamians really have that. And I'm in awe every day that I see this spirit and I see this attitude that they have. But again, the government also will do its part to ensure that we rebuild the city, that we rebuild East Grand Bahama, that we rebuild Abaco. So the government also has a huge role to play in this. But I am always in awe and always proud to see the spirit that Grand Bahamians have in these difficult times.
Yeah, and talking about the government, we're going to get to projects in a minute, but whatever you do in Grand Bahama, you need airlift.
Yeah.
You need reliable air service in there for international flights.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that airport?
Airport is hugely important. Hugely important. And again, the airport during the storm was completely devastated. Areas of the airport had actually 20 feet of water in it. The airport was completely destroyed. Right now, domestic flights are activated. So we have a number of our domestic carriers like Western Air, Bahamas Air, Flamingo Air. Really a couple of days after the storm, they took action and they started to move. And so right now we have good domestic flights going on every day. Right now, as we speak, officials are on the ground now, and they are processing a temporary site so that we will be able to have international flights very soon. So that process is going on now as we speak. So we expect very, very shortly to have international flights. We expect that Bahamas Air will probably be one of the first ones to start flying to Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
There are talks now with American Airlines, who wants to come in sometime in December, as well as Sunwing, who also wants to come in from Canada. But I also want to remind you and the public that we also have our ferry system. So we have the Balearia that comes almost every day, goes into Fort Lauderdale. We have the Bahamas Paradise and Bahamas Celebration that goes into West Palm Beach. So they also have an international carry. And as well, we were very pleased that Carnival Cruise Line, shortly after the storm, came in and started to return their passengers back to Grand Bahama and bring in some life
Yeah.
back into the tourism industry in Grand Bahama.
Helping the industry a little bit.
Yeah.
You were talking about looking at a site for the airport
Yeah.
where you're going to accommodate international flights. That airport is, I don't know, below sea level, whatever you call it, but it's prone to flooding.
Yeah. Well, you know,
is there some consideration to finding a new site?
Well, here is what's happening now. Obviously, and the Minister of Tourism had already said this, that Hutchison and the Grand Bahama Port Authority are equal owners in the airport now. So the airport is owned privately.
Right.
They are have not given us an indication in terms of what they're going to do about rebuilding it. We now, as the government, are in discussions with Hutchison and the Port Authority and are considering the purchase of the airport. So those discussions are ongoing now. The airport is very important for us now, as well as for the future projects that we want to bring on stream. We also want to say that really, we cannot be too quick in rebuilding what was already there, because the airport has been destroyed on a number of occasions.
Right.
And so what you don't want to do is just to go ahead and rebuild the same thing that you had again and just wait for another storm to destroy it. So we think that there's going to have to be a need for some significant studies that will tell us whether we should rebuild, how we should rebuild, and where we should rebuild.
Yeah.
So those studies we know will have to take place. But what's most important right now is to have a facility that we can get international flights that are going to be coming in on a regular basis, and we are now, as we speak, doing that.
Yeah, and this is obviously putting the cart before the horse, but there's a good template for what happens at Nassau International Airport. We got Vancouver Air Services, and I'm thinking that might be something you consider in Grand Bahama.
The government also is looking at that. We're looking at a number of options, I think, but if the government decides and if there is an agreement, and as we said, we're just still at the stage where we're talking, but if we do proceed in that way, yes, I think the model where the government owns the airport and there's a operator that is in that business and can operate it in the proper manner, then yes, I think that's something that the government will start to look into.
All right, we're going to talk some more about what you're doing in Grand Bahama, but we've got to take a break, and we'll be back with more of the Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson, after this. Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbold, speaking with Minister Kwasi Thompson about Grand Bahama. We were talking about the airport, these huge infrastructural challenges on that island. The RAND it's been gutted. I mean, most of it anyway.
Yeah, but you know, this storm really unprecedented devastation.
Yeah.
And the RAND was no exception. In fact, the entire downtown area of the RAND had probably about 4 or 5 feet of water in it.
Yeah.
I want to commend those doctors and nurses and administrators for doing a tremendous job in very difficult circumstances. They had to evacuate most of the RAND now, and so they're operating in a small portion at the RAND site. But thankfully, we have persons like Samaritan's Purse who came in, and they've set up actually a tent hospital. And I've been inside there, and they have everything that an ordinary hospital would have, from an emergency room to operating theater, and they have different wards, and so it's really a wonderful facility.
And doctors to operate in it.
And doctors and nurses to operate it as well. And I'm glad that also we have the Bahamians who are also assisting with doing work in the Samaritan's Purse as well. But you mentioned Iran, and yes, there is a need for significant renovation to Iran. And there is also a need really for a new hospital. Yeah. And right now, there is a memorandum of understanding that has been executed by the government and Carnival, as well as they're going to be partnering with the University of Miami. And renovations to the RAN will start in a matter of days. And we are hopeful that those renovations it's going to continue for a number of months. But Samaritan's Purse will be continuing for another 6 months. And so we believe that once Samaritan's Purse is ready to to move, then those renovations, at least in order for us to move back into portions of the RAN, we'll be able to do that. There's also plans for a new hospital, and the Prime Minister did indicate that yes, there are plans to move forward with a project for a new hospital.
As bad as Dorian was, it's making some things happen.
Well, you know, disasters provide opportunities.
Yeah.
And tragedies, really, you shouldn't waste a good tragedy. You really should look and see the opportunities in any tragedy and any disaster. And I think that's one of the things that we really should do, is not just look at this as an opportunity to rebuild, but we have to look at it as an opportunity to rebuild smarter and rebuild better.
And we hear about damage in Abaco, we hear about damage in Grand Bahama. Mostly we hear about the damage in East Grand Bahama, Freeport, of course. Yeah. But there was damage in West Grand Bahama as well.
Yeah, there was damage in West. There was damage in 8 Mile Rock. They did have some flooding there. But again, nothing that compared to what took place in East Grand Bahama. East Grand Bahama really was the most significant damaged place in Grand Bahama. But one good thing is the Prime Minister has indicated that the entire island of Grand Bahama is going to be a special economic recovery zone.
Yeah.
And that is going to be tremendous for not just East, but it's going to be tremendous for Freeport, for the 8 Mile Rock area, and also for the West End area as well. So all of the incentives and concessions that are going to be provided for people to rebuild and for people to bring in their items will be covered across the entire island of Grand Bahama.
And I know the tragedy happens, and then you got to find food, shelter, but food, clothing immediately.
Yeah.
And I think you've probably touched most, if not all, people with that. But people need to rebuild now. Is there some plan to help people with building materials, whatever they happen to be?
Yeah, there are two real areas of I think, importance. One is people rebuilding businesses and rebuilding the economic life of Grand Bahama. So the Small Business Development Center has been allocated, I believe it was $10 million to assist small businesses in Grand Bahama and in Abaco to rebuild. And so right now, businesses have been getting assistance from the Small Business Development Center. They've been getting grants, they've been getting small loans, they've been getting government guaranteed grants, equity loans as well, to assist them, those who have been damaged, to assist them to rebuild. We know a number of them have been affected. But on the other side, you have the houses. Yeah. And so you have thousands, really, of persons whose houses have been damaged. Now, the Prime Minister has already announced, and we put in the authority bill, the Reconstruction Authority bill, the ability for us to put in place a recovery fund. So it's going to be a national recovery fund. And the Prime Minister has also indicated that this fund is going to be used to rebuild the residents' houses and to give assistance for those residents. So a framework is that persons will be able to get up to $10,000 to rebuild or to repair their houses. But the idea is this is not going to be run solely by the government, but this is going to be really a partnership between the government and the private sector. But it is also not just going to be a partnership in terms of how it's run, but it's going to be a partnership in terms of how it is funded. And so you're going to have private sector persons who are going to be trustees. They are going to work hand in hand with government officials and with government information and assessments to be able to help those persons. It's going to be done transparently, and so that all persons are going to be able to get at least some assistance. We cannot rebuild everybody's house, and we can't repair it to completion to where it was before. But the government most certainly can assist, and that's what this is set up to do.
Yeah, and I wondered, along with all the stuff that's donated, all the clothing, has anybody donated? Do people say, we're going to send you 10 bundles of shingles, or are we going to send you some lumber?
Yeah.
Is that kind of donation happening?
That's in the process as well. One of the things, and there are a number of different entities that are doing it. So you have persons like private sector people who are also like Rotary. They have also been very active in terms of the donation of building materials. You have churches who are also doing what they're doing. You have members of parliament who have been extremely effective and busy on the ground helping their constituents, and then NEMA as well.
Yeah, and I saw I think West Grand Bahama, a church down there, decided they're going to help to repair.
A number of churches have been doing what they can and helping the local community. But NEMA itself also has been assisting as well. We have a number of NGOs who have been assisting as well with mold remediation. So the good thing is there is a lot of persons at the table who are doing a lot of things. In fact, that's one of the reasons why you need the Reconstruction Authority that will assist in coordinating all of the assistance that is coming in and being able to make it most effective for people.
Bring some order.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got so much to talk about. We got to take a break, but I want to ask you about Grand Lucayan. What's happening with Grand Lucayan? But we got to take a break, and we'll be back with the Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson, after this. Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbold, speaking with the Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Kwasi Thompson, asking you about, we're talking about reconstruction and recovery and the importance of that economic engine.
Absolutely.
So tell me about Grand Lucayan. What's happening over there?
One of the good things was after the hurricane, we had our big partners, Royal Caribbean, did a tremendous job in providing assistance. But one of the big things they said was they were completely dedicated with moving forward with the project. And so, as you know, Royal Caribbean, ITM, they have been moving forward with our negotiations. We think we are at that end stage now. We were slightly delayed during the hurricane period, but those talks have resumed. We are in continual communication with them. We believe that very soon we should be able to have an HOA that everybody is happy with. And hopefully we'll be able to move forward and get that deal signed. But I know that they are completely dedicated. They've already indicated to us that they want to move forward. They want to accelerate going ahead and moving ahead with those plans.
That will include Port Lucayan?
Absolutely, because anything that happens in that area will affect Port Lucayan. Okay. We're very pleased that Port Lucayan is opened back up. Those businesses, again, have opened back up. They are active on Friday and Saturday nights. Carnival and all of the other ferries have been able to provide some tourist activity in Port Lucayan. So we're very pleased that is getting back. Not as to where it was. I will not say that we are where we want to be, but most certainly we are thankful that it is open and that it's starting to move forward. We also have Carnival.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because Carnival is all up in our business these days.
Yeah, one of the good things was right after the storm, Carnival was one of the first persons to come, and again, not just say that they want to come and help, but to say they are dedicated to moving forward with their project, because that's one of the best ways they can help us. So you've seen that after the storm, we were able to sign the HOA. They are now in the process of getting all of their permits. And once they have completed getting all of their permits, they will then have indicated to us that they will begin construction in earnest, and then they will be able to start hiring persons, which is a good thing. So we're very pleased with that project, and we are very pleased with the way that the Royal Caribbean ITM project is moving forward as well.
Good. We need one show for Grand Bahama only. But part of your portfolio is spearheading the whole digitization effort.
Yes.
How is that going? What did Dorian do to the Dorian?
Well,
Dorian affected everybody.
What Dorian actually did was show us why we really need the digitization project. It showed us the importance of it.
Yeah.
And I gave an example that imagine, and God forbid, that we had that kind of a storm that actually hit New Providence. But one of the things that happened in Grand Bahama was a lot of our records were destroyed because they were flooded. So the digitization project shows us a need for us to digitize these records. It shows us a need for us to be able to have more online services, because if you have more online services, then there's no longer a need for you to actually go to the physical building and spend a lot of time at the physical building. One thing that we launched recently was the online e-passport renewal service.
Right.
And that has been really a tremendous achievement, because what that means is you can now apply online, pay online, and the passport office will give you a notification to come and collect your passport, your e-passport, when it's ready. So imagine that the only time you will have to physically attend the passport office is for you to collect your renewed passport.
I'm sure lots of people would be very happy about that.
Absolutely. We believe it's going to really cut down on the lines. But again, we're taking it to another level, because we also want to move forward with that same kind of process for your driver's license, that same kind of process when it comes to birth certificates, and having our agencies digitally talk to each other, so that you won't have to physically go from office to office and spend a lot of time. We are working on the e-cabinet,
yes.
And that's also, we saw how Dorian affected us, because I'm a minister. We had a number of ministers who were in Grand Bahama, some in Abaco, and immediately after the storm could not move.
Yeah.
And cabinet had to meet. So if we had e-cabinet, then we would have been able to participate in the cabinet right afterwards. So we saw the importance of that. So this has been accelerated. Recently we had our kickoff launch with the IDB. And so the IDB now, we are full-fledged, moving ahead 100% with our digitization project.
That is expected to help productivity. At some point, you talking about smart cities. I know somebody had proposed some project for West Grand Bahama for a smart city. It hasn't happened, but is that something you think of in the future?
Well, let me give you a real-life example. East Grand Bahama, completely devastated. East Grand Bahama, all of the infrastructure destroyed, all of the buildings and most of the houses affected. That is an opportunity for us to build smart.
Yeah.
It's an opportunity for us to have smart lighting, renewable energies when it comes to solar energy, solar power, and the power company really has said that they are dedicated to making that one of the first renewable energy, solar energy powered communities that we have in Grand Bahama and the Bahamas. So that provides us with a real opportunity to create and to build a true smart city in East Grand Bahama.
I know the government is coordinating all of this as it should. It governs the country. People have asked about the role of the Port Authority in all this.
Yeah.
You having discussions with them about the role they play going forward?
Absolutely. I mean, the Port Authority, again, is our partner. The Port Authority also has been active. They have their recovery fund. They've been doing work with mold remediation. They've also indicated to the government, because we met with them and said to them that we want them to assist businesses as well, the same way that we are assisting.
Right.
So the Port Authority has also indicated to us that on a case-by-case basis, they're looking at giving business license assistance. So businesses should feel free to go into the Port Authority and apply for that assistance. They're also giving grants as well, the same way that the government is giving grants. So we are working, again, hand in hand with the Port Authority. We're going to have some difficult discussions with them because we want to push them, because there are some things that we believe they should be doing that they are not quite doing. But it's a relationship that we really have to have. We're going to continue to work on it.
Thank you very much, Minister. And thank you for watching A Closer Look. Remember, you can also watch us on Facebook and on YouTube.